evening, ladies and gentlemen, fans of Skytear. Welcome. I am the commander, reporting here for duty, joined by the man who slowly constricts his prey before swallowing his food whole on the 2-lane, the Ashen Pass, and the Tri-lane, Pythoner6. Pythoner, thank you for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having me here. This should be an interesting game. We have Kirito, also known as Ryan, against Eric.
Yes.
Eric here at the bottom of the screen, and we see Eric is bringing maybe something we haven't seen him play as much. I think he's a little bit more known for some pretty heavy control-focused decks, yes. Typically with quite a bit of blue, and this time we see a little bit more red on his side of the field this time.
We see a lot of red, actually. But it will be spotted with... Actually, it's going to be a 50-50 mix here. Interesting. So, before we started the stream, we did toss the coin. Eric won the coin and opted to go second. So he did force Kirito to make the first draw. Kirito went with Brilvar. Yami Hogasai was the answer. Freyhill and is that Takali, I believe? Came out third. Korjoff and then Shalavi in reserve for Eric. And then it looks like Ishatosk as the reserve for Ryan.
Yes. And on Ryan's side of the field, he's typically also been pretty blue heavy, especially on the 2-lane map, but we see this time is bringing a little bit more green with Tlakali and Ixatosk making his draft this time.
So looking at this map here, I know that Ryan was prepping for a number of different circumstances during the match, and Eric has kind of one circumstance that he's going to be going for on this map, which is all-out aggression, really. As you touched on. A little bit different from what we normally see from him.
Yeah, indeed. The pair of Yami and Hogosai can be very powerful at just annihilating heroes. Of course, the victory conditions this time we see the Tamer and Tactician, so not particularly kill-focused objectives. The Tamer obviously being one of the kill objectives that's can be a little bit harder because you need to set things up just right. Yep. Granted, perhaps a little bit easier on Ashen Pass if you manage to gain control of both outsiders.
Yes.
Of course, that's generally something that your opponent is going to do everything they can to stop you from doing, since that can be pretty devastating.
Yes. And I apologize, I was toying with the audio levels a little bit since we are a little bit out of sync, it seems. Did you discuss the outsiders?
Yeah, so I was just mentioning that having two outsiders on Ashen Pass obviously does perhaps make the Tamer a little bit easier if you can win both of them.
Yes. Yes. I will confirm that one personally experienced.
That is, of course, not necessarily an easy feat.
It's true. All right, so...
but we can...
Go ahead.
We can see Kirito here starting out with Brilvar charging right up into the center.
Absolutely. Interesting play considering there's a Korjoff on the field.
True. Part of his strategy, I think, is to claim that center square, or hex rather, which gives him access to using cards like Safeguard to protect all of his minions all at once.
Right.
And so we see a move, an attack here, clearing out one minion. We'll see if he either leads or worships here. I might potentially expect a lead. Worshipping, as you pointed out, with Korjoff on the field may not be as useful in terms of the extra armor. Although, of course, if Eric goes after him with Yami and Hogosai, the extra armor could be useful.
Indeed. And to answer one of the questions in the chat with the overlay, unfortunately, the button bringing up the overlay is not working for me at the moment, so that's why we don't have an overlay. Okay, there we go. Maybe I as soon as I say that, it does start to pop up. So I'm working on trying to get the overlay to cooperate, but as of right now, I apologize. We are overlay free.
Does that do it?
Well, no.
Okay, I checked the box.
Okay.
Hoping that would fix things, but apparently not.
Let me see if I hit refresh, okay, there we go. Finally, we've got it. All right.
Okay.
All is right and well in the world. Thank you. All right, so meanwhile, during that, we did see Ryan finish off with a lead from the hand. So Ryan is going for a very aggressive push here right out the gate.
But like you said, this does leave Brilvar a little bit exposed, especially considering that he hasn't worshipped, so he does only have 2 armor.
Yes.
And with a Korjaf on the field, not caring about armor, and with Hogosai being in line of sight means that if either Hogosai or Yami marks Brilvar, he'll be down to just 1 armor.
Yes. Which, again, to be fair, Korjaf doesn't care about his armor to begin with, as you mentioned. And, we have a shield slam coming right off the gate here. From the flip for the mark on Hogosai, which apparently Eric is not using the worship buttons. Minus 3 points to Eric immediately. Shame on him. So Hogosai is now marked, which, as you mentioned, does reduce his armor to 1. So we will now see, does Hogosai attempt to kill the minions and risk the safeguard plays, as you mentioned, or is he just going to focus on... Nope, looks like we're going to lead from the hand. And what was his third action then? Because he's, as far as I know, he has attacked, or excuse me, he has worshipped, he has led, and he has question mark, question mark, question mark. Okay, he has not made his third selection.
This is an interesting position because with that third action, obviously he's not going to be able to hit a minion.
Correct.
He could, of course, and a skirmish isn't really going to get him anywhere useful, so he could either move, say, into cover, or move up a little bit, or he could potentially move into a dome as well.
Yes. All right. So it looks like he's going to actually move. Up 1. Yep. Interesting. Okay. Surprised he didn't go for a play in trying to occupy one of the cover hexes. Given that the Terror of the Endless Night is one of the outsiders, particularly it's on Kirito's side. It's interesting that perhaps he didn't go to the singular cover hex within 2. You'd still be able to influence the control zone while dropping one of the prime spots that the Terror might want to spawn. But Eric knows what he's doing because Eric has qualified for the top cuts.
It could have something to do with involving being adjacent to the minion, perhaps.
That's true.
I mean, it could be, like, in theory, he could have a safeguard, but in a more aggressive deck, that's perhaps less likely.
Yep. Taking a look through here with Yami, Hogosai, Korjaf, and Shillavi, there is nothing of the kind. We have some Psychic Shields, Time Glitches, Wind Blasts, Clear Minds, Shield Slams, Unstoppables, Exhaustion and Charms, Through the Eyes, Wind Blast, Psychic Vampirism, and Shatter Minds, and 1 Strength of the Pack, mixed across the 4 of them.
It looks like we see Tlakali on the other side going ahead and doing a move, worship, and attack. A pretty standard opening for Tlakali, which brings the minion count up to 3-1 in Kirito's favor here.
Yes. And Yami is going for the Time Glitch play. All right, so she is going to... Why would you drop a Time Glitch in? Okay, Brilvar is going to play the safeguard, as you mentioned. So we're going to go ahead and prevent minions from being destroyed that are adjacent to Brilvar, which, as you mentioned, is everybody.
Now, of course, the minions that he'd likely be hitting in this case anyway are probably the ones protected by Tlakali's Pillar.
Yes.
But the safeguard play here lets him preserve Tlakali's health.
Yes.
Which, especially against this more kind of aggressive list, can be pretty important.
So, unfortunately, the fast bonus of the Time Glitch kind of negated here. Although Yami is going to worship. Now, is she worshiping on Tlakali? Or is she just simply worshiping on... Nope, we're going to go and try and bring down Brilvar. That makes perfect sense. The attack, or the worship action does 1 plus a flip there. Subtracting 1 armor looks like an attack as well, so that's going to deal 5 damage, minus Brilvar's 1 armor, thanks to Hogosai being in range. So Brilvar is down to 9 HP, and Korjaf still has to go, which means even without a Shattermind, Korjaf could potentially just wipe the floor with Brilvar at this point. Well, no, you'd need a Shattermind, actually, with this point. But Brilvar is in danger of dying. All right, so Ryan going to make a move here to potentially go for the double dome play here. Ryan sees that with two people moved on Eric's side, you kind of get a play of I'll take one dome, you'll take another one. Meanwhile, he's also going to use Freyhill's ability to worship on Brilvar, giving him +1 armor, but also more importantly, bringing him up to 11 HP, staving off any potential turn 1 assassination attempts from Korjov.
At this point in the turn, in the round, the extra point of armor isn't going to help.
Correct. Mostly for the healing.
Not against Korjov.
Well,
yes, the healing being the important part.
It will help, however, against potentially the Terror of the Endless Night if Korjov goes into Dome number 2. Since the Terror does not do piercing damage, if he were to spawn in the cover hex, which may explain why Hokusai didn't go into that singular cover hex, is so that the Terror could spawn there, although he could also spawn in the double cover hex and the result would end up being the same. The Terror is able to get to Brilvar, so that will help reduce some of the Terror's damage. But as we mentioned, more importantly, the healing is kind of the key point here.
Indeed. The other reason to potentially avoid going into that cover hex on the right is that it blocks Korjov from using a single move to get into the dome. As we can see, Eric is actually moving in the other direction with Korjov.
Interesting.
Looks like he may be contesting the dome, skirmishing for 1 on Brilvar here to bring Brilvar down to 10.
Now, interestingly enough,
and then stepping into the dome.
If Korjov leads here, Freyhill didn't lead, which means that he will win the dome. Oh, no, he did lead. I'm sorry.
No, Freyhill led from deck,
yes.
But we'll see. He's going to lead from hand, so that perhaps gives him an advantage here on trying to win the dome, which could be pretty important.
All right, so with that being said, we're at the end of the round here. And Tlakali does play a Nourish card. All right, so Brilvar almost definitely not going to die here. Dark Vigilante will be able to spawn at the tower. Unfortunately, with Hokusai right in the way there, it will take at least 2 actions to get to Brilvar. So I guess you could power up using the Skirmish +1 and the Piercing Skirmish. And then do an attack on Brilvar. But with that much HP left, not going to need to worry about him dying.
It looks like we have Kirito here winning the lane by 2, given the advantage on the minions, both having led with a 3 and having 2 heroes in the lane.
All right, so with that said, now again, remember we are playing with the new minion spawn rules, which as you can see, Kirito's minions are going to be standing right where they are. They still do have, 2 of them, I think, no, all 3 of them are within 3, which means they don't need to move anywhere. And this is just kind of a way to make a little bit more interesting positioning occur. Now, with Hokusai sitting directly on the control token, the minions can't actually spawn on the control point as they normally would. They will spawn around. And interestingly enough, Kirito actually used that positioning very well. This ensures that the Dark Vigilante cannot get to Brilvar with 2 moves. It would have to be a move and a skirmish, taking kind of the long way around. So, although it is the case that Eric wins the Dark Vigilante, his effectiveness is going to be pretty well hampered on this play, which is one of the reasons why I personally don't bring Dark Vigilante to this map. Because of the spawn rules, it makes it very, very difficult sometimes to get good positioning on the spawn.
Exactly, yeah. When, especially when you might want to be using it to help defend your Nexus from minions. At that point, the minions could very well be all the way around your Nexus, and you might not have anywhere to place it and have to put it all the way on the other side of the map, which can be pretty awkward. The other interesting part about the positioning of the minions here and the fact that they're not going to get repositioned right away is that it means they're still adjacent to the pillar that he placed with Tlakali in the first round to maintain that protection.
Yes, and with that, and so with Tlakali being still at 16 hit points, she will happily soak a point or 2, an attack or 2, defending those minions. So spawning them there, You have to move that there. Although, if I do recall correctly, that effect only can be activated during the hero's phase, which means she can't protect them right now. So first we see the skirmish to delete a minion. I expect we'll probably see the piercing skirmish here due to the fact that Brilvar has 2 armor now, so it does make a difference on the flip which one you use. All right, so that will be 1 damage to Brilvar there, and then I presume an attack to finish off the activation. Ooh, but a +3 on the attack. Very nice. All right, so that's going to actually deal 5 damage down to Brilvar, bringing him down to 7, which means that given that Kirito has the first turn activation, he might consider moving Brilvar out of the way, because otherwise Kordjov may make an assassination attempt.
One thing to keep in mind, though, is especially if Brilvar doesn't go first and gets killed before he activates,
yes.
Is that at that point then Ixotosk would just spawn and get to activate this turn, which can make playing more aggressive decks, a little bit, you have to work a little bit harder sometimes, because that first kill often doesn't amount to as much as you might like. And especially with the balance of minions and the lane control being pretty far in Kirito's favor here, if, even if you kill Brilvar with Ixotosk coming in to then continue trying to push the lane, could be a little bit problematic.
All right.
We see a Bewitch here from Tlakali, furthering this advantage even more.
Bewitch, actually the only one in Kirito's deck. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, he has 3 Bewitches, and which, of course, Bewitch will allow him to defeat a target minion and then spawn another minion. And Worshipping the Pillar, again, going to protect that, which means that 4 out of the 5 minions are now protected by Tlakali. So even if he doesn't have another safeguard, Ryan is still able to use Tlakali to soak up damage to pretty much all the minions. So unless Eric has a bunch of quick shots, which unfortunately he doesn't, those minions are going to be a little bit challenging to deal with. Now, of course, he could... Go ahead.
I think that's one of the considerations you have to make when you initially go after Brilvar in this case, because it means that at this point, especially with that safeguard to keep Tlakali from having to lose life earlier, Tlakali is still at full health, and so not in danger of dying from just attacking a few minions here.
Yes.
And so Tlakali is still around, protecting those minions being very important at this point in the game.
And as someone in the chat pointed out, yes, we now do, for the latest update, have the victory tokens available to be seen on the objectives. God bless Tapeworm. We thank him for all of his work. All right, so let's see what Eric does. Eric is actually going to activate Hokusai. All right, very good then. So Brilvar is still marked at the moment and shapeshifted, so he has 2 armor here. So it looks like we're going to attack and delete the only minion not protected by Tlakali in this case. Ooh, the Yami ultimate flipped on the attack. Not where you want to see those ultimate flips occurring, though. Try to want to save those for... Although it does, I guess, ensure that that minion is very, very dead, for whatever that's worth there. Worship on to Tlakali with a 0 there, so that's going to be 1 damage to both.
Gotta wish you'd done those in the other order.
Yes, very much so. Although, to be fair then, had he done that, that would bring Hokusai down to 10 hit points, which Freyhill might then try to take advantage of.
That's true. And at this point, obviously, Kirito has more actions available that he doesn't have to use killing minions, because Eric's minions are all dead.
Yes. And one of the unfortunate things that we saw was the... no, I don't know. I will be honest, Mr. Kane, I do not know who people are unless they specifically tell me. I am oblivious to that, I'm afraid. I sleep in a cave and live in a cave and come out whenever there is Skytear. But yes, we do thank you for your work, Tape. Anyways, I've been distracted.
Hogosai's last
Go ahead.
Hogosai's last action here was a lead from hand.
Yes.
Definitely going to be very important to keep control of the lane here.
Indeed. Unfortunately, speaking of Hogosai, we have already seen his ultimate supernova, which would have been useful if that would have come up next round. Obviously, round 2 might have been a bit dicey, but round 3, Hogosai's ultimate allows him to blast every enemy within 2 hexes. Could have been very useful for some crowd control there. Tlakali certainly wouldn't have been able to have saved everybody, but that's already in the discard, so unless Eric manages to quickly cycle through his deck, that's not going to be something that is an option for him. And another safeguard comes down.
That was a flip on the attack on Yami there from Brilvar. And so Brilvar, having activated here with his lead attack and then worship as the last action here, does give Eric a window. If he can manage to kill Brilvar at this point, Ixotosk will spawn exhausted and out of range of the control point. But at this point, with the worship at the end of his activation on Brilvar there, getting him back up to 9 health.
All right, we do see a shield slam coming out there. From
that was on Korjaf's skirmish there.
There we go. Yep. Okay. Oh, strength of the pack turning those minions against him. Those minions might not be able to be killed, but the heroes in the area certainly can. So strength of the pack is going to deal damage to the target based on the number of minions in their line of sight. And since Korjaf is a maid, that's piercing, which means now with an attack action, Brilvar is dead. Because there are no -1s in this deck. So we are about to say bye-bye, Brilvar.
Indeed. Ooh, but we have a nourish.
Oh, all right.
Kirito's side.
I spoke too soon.
So Brilvar might just barely live.
Indeed. With that, that'll bring him up to 6. So unless we flip a +3, which I believe is still possible, I think there are a couple Psychic Shields left in Eric's deck here. Yes, there are 3 Psychic Shields. I think we've only seen 1 or 2 of them. So it is an outside chance, but it is still nevertheless possible. Ryan looking to think maybe he wants to burn another mana. It looks like Brilvar still has 1 mana left. If there's a final nourish, we might see that come down in order to guarantee his survival from this particular assault. Now, with that being said, of course, even after Korjaf's assault, Yami does have to attack him on activation, and so with a lucky flip, okay, so we see a +1 on the flip, so that's not going to be enough to kill him, brings him down to 2. Korjaf does not have any remaining mana left, so unless there is some sort of a good flip from Yami, it seems Brilvar probably not going to die this round.
And Brilvar obviously back up at 3 armor, not being marked. So Yami's required attack as her first action will be just 2 attack versus 3 armor.
Yes.
And Brilvar's likely to survive that.
So Korjaf has made 2 actions to this point. He's skirmished, he's attacked. Possibly he might go for a shapeshift, turn some fast. He might lead, perhaps, in order to try and stem the tide, because with Brilvar not dying here and having a lead on hand, this push is going to get ugly. There's currently 4 minions, 2 heroes, plus whatever lead Kirito has hidden underneath.
Indeed. And this is a situation where you might be somewhat tempted to go after the dome, but that's definitely a very risky play. I think at this point Eric needs as much help as he can trying to keep from losing the lane.
Yeah. I honestly, actually, if he doesn't lead here... Oh, no, Hokusai does have a lead. Oh, but nevertheless, we're going to go and make the play for the dome. Interesting. Now, Freyhill hasn't activated, so she could potentially skirmish, attack, and then lead against Korjaf and guarantee that she wins the dome.
That's true. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we see Frail come into the lane, though, to try to push that through. And that's kind of the gamble I think Eric is making here, is that he's thinking that he can survive that push, and if he can, then winning the outsider here is going to give him a big advantage in trying to survive the next round.
Yes. Also, as a slight point of interest here, since this is actually a thing, I'm going to go ahead and drop the Outsider's hit point token on the board, because you can target and kill Outsiders now. And since the Tamer actually is one of our objectives, killing an Outsider with the other Outsider does give you a Tamer point. So players do need to be aware of that possibility. I think it's unlikely that we'll see that given how this game is progressing, but sometimes you start out with a plan, and based on how the game evolves, you have to pivot from that plan and do something else entirely.
But in this case, we can see Kirito here going all in on his attempt to just push the lane through here.
Yep.
Frail moving into the lane and leading. And it looks like a worship as her last action.
Yes. All right, so let's see. So assuming that that's probably from hand, that's probably going to be a 3. Let's do some quick math here. We have 4 minions, 3 heroes, that's 7. If we assume Freyhill has a 3, that's basically 10. I think Yami has to... Oh, no. Hokusai. So Hokusai, we're going to assume a 3 again, is 5. You need to kill Brilvar here, I think, or the game is over, if my math is accurate. And assuming that everybody here is playing 3s.
Yeah, because like we mentioned before, Tlakali all the way up at full health is going to be able to heal any minions that Yami might wish to step over.
Yes.
So like you say, trying to kill Brilvar here will likely be key in how this round ends up going.
Now, as Eric, what you can do here is essentially, I think you get 2 shots. If you don't flip the 3 on the provoked attack, you could try as a last-ditch effort the worship. Yep, there we go. We see the worship action coming out from Yami. You have to attack her first. Attack has to be your first option because Brilvar is taunting you.
Indeed.
The worship afterward I like because that'll negate the bonus plus armor, and that makes it possible to kill with a flip there. But for this attack, Brilvar will have 3 armor as the new card that allows you to... Oh no. The sacrifice play there is going to cost Freyhill 2 HP and bring Brilvar up to 6, which guarantees Yami cannot kill him. So with that being said,
seems like they're going ahead with the worship.
Okay. Did he perhaps already just flip? No, because we would have seen the indicators on screen. So there's a +3 on the Psychic Shield here. That'll deal 2 damage because Brilvar has 2 armor. Did we just miss the flip on the attack and it fizzled? Or I guess bounced off the armor, to be more accurate?
If we did, they didn't mark it on with the action buttons.
Correct. Okay. So, in this situation, I don't... yeah, again, if both Freyhill and... Yep, we just totally forgot about the taunt. Should we say something? Because I feel like this is where we interfere, because this is a misplay here.
Yeah.
Let's hold that thought here. Can you message them, please? Because this is going to make me
sure
deal with all sorts of weird shenanigans here.
At this point, it may be a little late.
Well, yeah.
But
let's see if we can correct this here. Brilvar is shapeshifted, which means Yami's first action needed to have been the attack. Which apparently we're just going to say, okay, we're past the point of action. Because ultimately, I don't think it matters anyway. Freyhill.
I think, yep.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't think it makes a difference here. Because the attacks weren't going to kill Brilvar because Freyhill had enough to kill. So
I think technically if you were allowed to do it in that wrong order, I think there theoretically, if you could have flipped 3 threes in a row, I think there might have been exactly enough damage. If you could have worshipped, then attacked, then skirmished.
Right.
But short of that, I think you're correct.
Yeah. All right, well, that was victory by Nexus Destruction on turn 2, so let's go ahead and chat with the players real quick.
Into that dome if I had led from hand?
I think so. Still to tie it, yep.
I thought you might have gone for the other one. Okay. So I guess it was correct to go from deck then.
GG's.
I think we had a quick question at the end there about Yami's activation there. Wasn't Yami supposed to be taunted by Brilvar there since he was shapeshifted?
Oh, you're right.
That's what we were trying to ping.
Ha! That's funny. In my head, that was gone because I was going to charm with Korjoff before he left, and then I moved Korjoff, and I was like, oh, crud, I forgot to charm, and then I forgot about that when Yami activated. So in my head, I was like, jeez.
Korjoff used Strength of the Pack, too.
Yeah, used Strength of the Pack, yeah, so he couldn't have done it, yep.
Yeah, okay, well, I guess now you didn't make a mistake by not attacking the pillar, because you would have had to attack Brilvar first anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, again, I mean, ultimately, with Brilvar's armor and setup, I'm not sure the order, because you had sacrifice, so I don't think the order really made too much of a difference there.
I had another sacrifice, too, if I needed it, so, yeah.
Well, I mean, that was a pretty straightforward game there. I see now the full meaning of why you titled this as Trample is Trample. I would like to let you know, Kirito, that everyone now has to suffer because you went through this fast enough. I didn't get to make an obscure reference to the weekend card that we're teasing. So congratulations on winning. But really, you may have lost in the community's eyes.
Well, why don't you just make an obscure reference now?
Because I can't. I'm too busy getting distracted from trying to make sure that all of these volume levels are the same. Cough, cough.
Was that an obscure reference?
It was, but apparently it wasn't that obscure now that you spelled it out for everybody.
Okay. I don't know where exactly it was, but yeah.
It was in there. You guys will figure it out, because I know that chat is a smart bunch of cookies.
Awesome.
But anyway, yeah. Do we have any thoughts? Like, this is pretty straightforward on this one.
Yeah. So Eric, I know we've definitely seen you play a little bit more leaning towards the control end of the spectrum, bringing a little bit more of an aggressive list here. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this kind of a more aggressive build, especially versus something that's kind of as incredibly aimed at controlling as Kirito's deck here.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been playing control decks mostly, or control-ish decks, and just Hokusai and Yami have been giving me fits because the two of them can chase anybody down anywhere.
Yes.
And partly, my normal lists, I've already was talking to Ryan about what I was doing, and so I was trying to pull something that you might not expect to come. And so I thought building around them was good, but I have not had that much experience with them. But I think just the propensity, I needed to get the Brilvar kill there that round. So, and when it didn't happen, that was a problem.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the pairing of Yami and Hokusai is definitely very strong.
Yes.
With their ability to use all 3 actions to deal damage, and especially with Hokusai's ability to negate some of that armor, which can be crucial in melting heroes very quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there were 2 things we were talking about after the game for you guys joined. One was I was saying Yami should have attacked the pillar and then stepped over a minion, but obviously, as you guys pointed out, he had to attack Brilvar, so that wouldn't have actually been an option technically. The other thing that I was discussing was when I moved Frail into the dome on turn 1, I had the sinkhole in hand, but I didn't want to use it yet because I wanted to have it with Flux on for turn 2, and then I ended up leading with it because I needed the 3. The other option was I could have led with a 1 from hand, and I was hoping maybe if I led with a 1, he would have not gone for the dome, and it would have been like a bluff, but I went from deck instead, and he won the dome. But I asked him afterwards. He said he would have gone there to tie me anyway. So I think going from deck was the correct decision.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Kirito.
I don't really have any other thoughts on it.
Okay, so well, in that case, let's ask you some thoughts about your next round opponent, the infamous enigmatic figure known as Clinton.
Yeah, he's a very good player in both Tulane and Ashen Pass.
Mm-hmm. Have you scheduled your game with him yet?
I have not scheduled my game with him yet.
Why not? It's been a whole 5 minutes since this game ended.
Because I've been talking to you.
Well, that's your first mistake.
I feel like it'd be rude if I started. I feel like it would be rude if I was starting to communicate with somebody else and plan another game while talking to you.
That's fair. I appreciate that. I can appreciate that. As I sit here and send messages to 3 different people in Discord.
Well, in that case, I'm going to go schedule that right now.
All right, well then, if nobody else has any closing thoughts, just to give everyone who is watching this, whether live or in person, first of all, we would, of course, like to thank you all for joining us live, but there are a number of events coming up this week that will be streamed live on Friday at, I believe it is 2 p.m. Eastern. We will be having a match against, if I can check this correctly, Zaragul and Tophone will be playing their Clash playoff match. And then also on Sunday, again, we will be streaming the Genova in-person qualifiers live from Italy. And by that point, we will have almost certainly revealed the new cards if I stop getting distracted by all these other tangents and actually get to revealing some fun facts about it. Like it's blue. All right, well then, thank you.
Then.
Yep, I just thought, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
I'm excited.
We just got a couple red cards today. Giacomo kind of played an old switcheroo on us with the red cards. But I thought that everyone would like to know that a new blue card is on the way. So look forward to it, because I think that people will be very split on loving and hating it.
Remember to fill out this battle report here.
You should. And while Kirito does that, we're going to thank you all for joining us this evening. Have a good night. We'll see you on the next mission. Take care, everyone.